So the Expanse season finale. Now I do realize I've not reviewed a single episode of the series in a couple of weeks, but I ended up going on a week's vacation, the World Cup started, I had to travel on business for another week, and now I am back. For those who care enough, the channel is still screwed by YouTube, and the double standards that they seem to have used to assess my channel apply to me when put in comparison with other channels that offered the same kind of content. So yeah, I'm still demonetized, still no partner program, still demotivating and irritating. But I'm still planning to present my reviews, my videos, and present you with the kind of content I hope meets your expectations. So without further ado, welcome back guys, and let's talk this amazing season finale. Let's go. Now when it comes to comparing the third season of the series to the novels, namely Caliban's War and ABADDON'S Gate in this case, there has been a lot of deviations and variations over here. But nonetheless, at the very end, the series did operate within the spirit of the novels. They did give us the biggest highlights right out of the novels, including stuff like the return of Joe Miller, or the investigator in this case, because we know that now Joe Miller is not really Joe Miller, but rather a construct created by the protomolecule. We also had the introduction of Anna Valavadov, the introduction of Clarissa Mao or Melba Coe and her revenge arc against James Holden, and finally the introduction of ASHFORD. I really love the character of ASHFORD. Gonna be talking a lot about his character on this review, but we finally gotten a reveal when it comes to the protomolecule. I was really hoping that this season would end with just about that, us understanding the protomolecule. It was gonna kill me trying to keep that a secret at the very end of the season, try not to talk about it if they wouldn't have revealed it on this episode. I'm gonna be talking about that as well in a moment here. But to get started, number one, we've got the title of the episode, ABADDON'S Gate, which is also the title of the third novel in the series, the Expanse series that is. Now the title of the episode, the title of the book, totally fits with what James Holden got to describe to ASHFORD on this episode, where he got to see within the slow zone. James Holden got to see part of the history of that civilization that created the protomolecule, so during his conversation with ASHFORD, he does describe this place as a cemetery. Now the thing about the title of the finale of the season and the title of the book, the events of which we've been watching for a while now, is that Abaddon is a word of Hebrew origin, which means a place of destruction. It is all about destruction, the depth of hell. But not only does the title ABADDON'S Gate fit with the reveal we get reading this book, not only does it fit with the reveal we get watching this episode, and not only does it fit with the description that James Holden gives ASHFORD during their first meet at the very beginning of this episode, it also fits that trope. The finale of every season has been named after the book, the events of which we've been watching on that finale. The first season ended with Leviathan Wakes, the title of the first novel, the second with Caliban's War, the title of the second novel, and now the third season ends with ABADDON'S Gate, the title of the third novel. But moving on to number two. Now, because I haven't reviewed the past couple of episodes, I'm going to be mixing stuff up and talking about some stuff from the past couple of episodes, especially stuff that led into this episode or the core of the events on this episode. So Melba is trying to kill James Holden, the reveal made by Tilly Fagan to Anna Valavadov right before the former met her maker. Now this is one of those deviations that I like to point out when it comes to comparing the series to the novels. Now Tilly Fagan's role in the novels is way bigger than it was on the series. Not only does she end up exposing Clarissa during the events of ABADDON'S Gate in the novels, but she does as well have a much bigger role to play in the life of Clarissa, in changing the state of mind and shaping the new state of mind of Clarissa. The friendship that ties her to the Mao family in the novels did allow her wiggle room to criticize the family, and especially Jules Pierre Mao, in a way that did help Clarissa find peace and deal with her vengeful state of mind. So yeah, the Tilly Fagan arc did seem to have been cut extremely short on last week's episode. But number three, using Bobby Draper, changing the storyline from the novels in order to fit Bobby Draper in the Martian Hunt for Holden arc. That was actually a good touch. Now Draper does not really have a role in the events of ABADDON'S Gate, not one that I remember. That means that even though the Martian Hunt for Holden is brought out of the novels, the part with Bobby Draper had nothing to do with it in the books. But however though, and for the purpose of creating a TV series, and this is something the Expanse really excels at, it does make a lot of sense to use a character that has already been developed, one that will have a role in the future of the series, rather than shelving her, discarding her for close to an entire season, and introducing new ones that we might not be able to relate to this close to the end of the season. Now this is exactly why, and as opposed to other TV series that are based on books or movies based on books, you don't find a lot of book readers when it comes to The Expanse complaining about what's going on with the series. You know, all about the kind of changes and the kind of deviations that they went for when it comes to the series away from the novels. You don't see that with The Expanse because they do such a great job. But moving on to number 4, ASHFORD taking over the lead of the Behemoth is getting down to the roots. The character is as arrogant and full of himself as he is in the novels, but I really loved his dynamic with Drummer on last week's episode. Now they played it all out. Now in my personal opinion, his ascension to power without having to betray Drummer and take her position by force or mutiny, that was quite a fine touch as well, because yeah, a lot of us kind of expected this would end up working differently. The development of ASHFORD in general since he made his first appearance halfway through this season, that was pretty decent. His motivations did feel shady at times, but in the very end we watch him leading by example on this episode, I believe just like everyone else, making him the first in line to donate blood for the wounded and the injured. But then there is this one last change, but more on that later on. Number 5. Now I kept getting this question in the comments over 2 or 3 videos maybe about Melba, or Clarissa Mal that is, her insane strength and power, and how she ends up getting this insane upgrade by just grinding her teeth. Now I keep forgetting to answer that question, but Clarissa in the novels, and obviously on the series as well, has these implants that when activated powers her up. Now when that happens, both her focus and reflexes are kind of heightened. It all puts her on a whole different level of combat skills as well. But however, there's a downside to everything, so she's not really totally conscious to what she's doing when in that state, and that does in return explain why she ends up completely disoriented after using them. Now without going into much detail here in order to avoid spoilers, I did like how this episode started with Clarissa, Anna, and Amos, and especially when knowing that Amos's interactions with Clarissa are gonna get extremely interesting as the story moves forward. But moving on to number 6, we are finally to the point of discussing this without spoiling, the Protomolecule and the Ring Builders, aka the civilization that created the Protomolecule. The Protomolecule is not really a weapon, it was not sent to kill mankind, it was trying to build a world. The creators of the Protomolecule were basically aliens, were attacked by something or someone. Now personally, and as far as I've read in the books, I'm not really sure who that agent is, the agent of destruction, the one who ended up killing the Ring Builders or destroying the Ring Builders, that civilization. Not that I would tell you if I did know, because that would be spoiling stuff that we haven't gotten to in the books on the series. But anyway, that thing that we got to watch last week's episode within the station inside the ring, James Holden seeing what he saw, that was pretty much him getting access to historical records detailing the history of said civilization, now their existence came to an end. Number 7, they burnt whole solar systems like they were trying to cauterize their wound. That is a reference to how the Ring Builders in the novels try to fight their unknown enemy and agent of destruction. Now the alien race that created the Protomolecule try to fight the infection their enemy spread by destroying entire systems composed of stars and related planets. But number 8, ASHFORD believing those ramblings of Holden was not only one of the better moments on this finale, but what was even better was his choice after that. Stop the ring from destroying humanity, and not for personal fame, not for his own glory, not to be labeled a hero, but rather to make sure that humanity is saved, a purely selfless reason. But right about now as well, there is also Holden talking to Miller, there is Holden figuring out the way to stop the impending disaster, and there is Drummer talking to ASHFORD about it. ASHFORD though, and in this particular situation, he is still arrogant, he's a stubborn man just like in the novels, and he's full of himself, and he does believe beyond doubt that he knows what is best. Melba working on his side is true, and right out of the novels, his belief that the ring should be destroyed as well. A lot of it, most of it actually, is to the letter and out of the novels. The beauty of ASHFORD's character though, how it is written, is that the man is a dilemma. Even when I read ABADDON'S Gate, I was never really sure how much I want to love or hate his character. The complexity of the character, very well written character for both the series and the novels. Number 9, considering we came around to the mention of Drummer over here, she is definitely the show's version of Puff from the novels. The entire paralysis situation that she's got going on this episode, that's that's exactly what happens to Pa around the same time on the pages of ABADDON'S Gate. Number 10, Amos bringing Anna Volodov to meeting with Monica Stewart for a broadcast together is very ABADDON'S Gate. That moment with both her and Monica, that's pretty much what the entire build-up for the character of Anna has been all about from the very beginning of the season in the series case and from early on in the events of ABADDON'S Gate in the book series case. The series version though did get that extra part with the arc with Errinwright and Esteban in order to build the kind of rapport with the audience that she gets to have in the books. However though, and in my opinion, and this comes from someone who really loves the actress Elizabeth Mitchell who plays the role of Anna Volodov, I think that she was not as lovable on the series as she was in the books. But number 11, I did state earlier that bringing Clarissa into the fold of all these events, having her on ASHFORD's side, is in a way what happens in the novels. There were actually some parts that were skipped right out of the novels, like ASHFORD being put in a cell right next to that of Clarissa's, for example. But nonetheless, we got the idea, we got the gist of it, and it was written for the purpose of the series in a very good fashion. Now before Clarissa made her final move at the very end of the episode, or close to the very end of the episode that is, the doubt that we did see in her eyes, that was right out of the novels as well. Looking at ASHFORD after he shot and killed one of his men is in a way an accelerated manner to show us the doubt that she had when it came to ASHFORD's actions in the novels. Do you think a truly good act at the end of your life can make up for the terrible things you've done? That is the point of changing Clarissa's tenure on the series that I was waiting for, one that is pretty similar to that brought about by Tilly Fagan in the novels. But there was as well ASHFORD's response to Clarissa's "Do you think a truly good act at the end of your life can make up for the terrible things you've done?" I would like to believe that. That made him very sympathetic and did give his character even more depth. He is not all good, but he's not all bad either. He's just got a conviction and he's going for it without giving it enough thought. Number 12, the reunion of Alex and Bobby. Don't know why I found that moment funny or her surprise to find Alex there funny, but one of my favorite moments on this episode. Her reaction just cracked me up for some reason. Her telling him that she doesn't want to hurt him and him responding that he's actually there to keep Amos from hurting her. I think that was definitely funny for everyone. Number 13, that moment with Naomi and Drummer. What's going on, Drummer? That was very reminiscent of Miller cutting off communications with the Rossi right before he convinced Protomolecule Julie to head for Venus instead of Earth. Now through some comments that I got on reviews of some of the earlier episodes in the season's run, I know that Drummer has got a great arc ahead of her in the events of future novels, one that I'm yet to get to reading considering I'm just finishing up my read of the 4th novel in the series, Cibola Burn. Now the argument then was against my claim that she actually might be Pa from the novels, which obviously is the case now that we got to the finale, but that is not really the point here. For a moment there, I was actually extremely worried we would be losing Drummer before she gets to the point of fulfilling that arc that everyone is raving about and that I'm yet to get to. Number 14, Clarissa changing the outcome of this battle on board of the Behemoth, saving Holden and Naomi, stopping ASHFORD, turning against him, granting Holden access to the bridge. It is all pretty much part of her role in the novel at this point. Only instead of giving ASHFORD this little beating, she actually ended up killing him at this point in the events of ABADDON'S Gate. But that regret in Clarissa's eyes at the very end, Volodov sympathizing with her, all of that was how ABADDON'S Gate came to an end, with Anna recommending that she gets a fair trial on Luna. But finally though, number 15, the season finale, even though titled after ABADDON'S Gate, the name of the novel, the events of which it relays, unlike its two predecessors, did not leave us hanging in the middle of the events of said novel, but rather concluded it. The finale of the first season ended with us amidst the events of Leviathan Waste, and the finale of the second amidst the events of Caliban's War, both of which were concluded halfway through the following season. So yeah, we can expect that season 4 will be opening with a fresh start with the events of the 4th novel, Cibola Burn. Need I remind you as well that The Expanse has been renewed for a 4th season, only instead of airing on Sci-Fi, it's gonna be streaming on Amazon. But with that being said, it was a great season and a great run we had together with all of these videos. It is probably going to be an entire year before we get to meet again with another Expanse video, except probably for my Season 3 recap. But until then, you can let me know in the comments what you thought of the finale, what parts did you like the most, what parts out of the novels did you dislike them changing or skipping on the series, what parts did you like the change to, and what parts do you think have been brought to life out of the novels perfectly on Season 3. You can let me know as well if you did like this video by dropping it a much appreciated like, and if that were to be the case, you can always subscribe and enable notifications for my future videos, community posts, and live streams. But until the next time you tune in for another one of my videos, thank you all for tuning in, and have a great day.